The elevator doors slide open to reveal floor 7 of Morrison Associates, and I step into what feels like a carefully curated monument to corporate efficiency. Everything is beige and chrome, the kind of place where creativity goes to file quarterly reports and die a slow, fluorescent death. Jamie, right? A warm voice cuts through the ambient hum of keyboards and muted phone conversations. I turn to see someone about my age with bright eyes and a genuine smile that feels like finding a $20 bill in an old coat pocket. I'm Morgan. I sit right over there. I point to a desk decorated with small plants and colorful sticky notes. The only spot in this entire floor that looks like an actual human works there. Thank God, I say, maybe a little too relieved. I was starting to think they'd hired me to work in a very expensive waiting room. Morgan laughs, the kind of laugh that makes you want to be funnier just to hear it again. Oh, you'll fit in just fine. Come on, let me show you around before the morning rush hits. As we walk through the maze of identical cubicles, I notice how people move here efficiently, purposefully, but with a kind of muted energy. Like everyone's operating at 70% capacity. Morgan points out the essentials: bathroom, break room, the copy machine that jams if you look at it wrong, and the conference rooms named after mountains nobody's ever climbed. And that's where the magic happens, Morgan says, nodding toward a glass-walled conference room where several people in sharp suits are gathered around a table. Charts and graphs are projected on the wall, and everyone looks intensely focused on what appears to be a very serious discussion about very serious things. That's when I see Alex for the first time, even from this distance. There's something commanding about their presence. They're standing at the head of the table, gesturing toward the projection with the kind of confidence that comes from years of knowing exactly what they're talking about. Dark hair pulled back professionally, posture that suggests they've never doubted themselves in their life. And when they speak, though, I can't hear the words through the glass. Everyone else leans in slightly. Alex Morgan, Morgan explains, following my gaze. Senior project manager, been here forever, runs the big campaigns, basically keeps this whole department from falling apart. Super professional, super competent, they pause, searching for the right word. Intimidating, I suggest. I was going to say unreachable, but yeah, intimidating works too. Morgan grins. Don't worry, you probably won't work with them directly for a while. They handle the major accounts. I watch as Alex makes a point that causes the entire room to nod in unison. There's something almost choreographed about it, the way they command attention without seeming to try. Come on, Morgan says, tugging my sleeve. Let me show you where the decent coffee is hidden. 3 weeks in, and I've settled into a rhythm. I arrive early, stay late, and try to bring a little warmth to interactions that often feel scripted. The thing about corporate environments is that everyone's so focused on being professional that they forget to be human. So I make it a point to actually listen when the security guard asks about my weekend, to remember that Linda in accounting just got back from her daughter's wedding, to notice when someone looks like they could use a genuine smile. It's Tuesday morning, and I'm standing in front of the break room coffee machine, a temperamental beast that produces something that's technically coffee but tastes. It's like it has serious regrets about its life choices. I'm adding my 3rd sugar packet when I hear footsteps. Behind me, brave soul. I turn to find Alex standing there, holding an empty mug with the company logo. Up close, they're even more striking than they appeared from across the office sharp jawline. Eyes that seem to take in everything at once, and an air of quiet authority that makes me suddenly aware of my own posture. Oh, you mean the coffee? I gesture toward the machine. Yeah, I think it's actually a test of character. It's like, if you can drink this and still maintain the will to live, you're probably management material. The corner of Alex's mouth twitches, not quite a smile, but close enough to feel like a small victory. I've been drinking it for 8 years, they say, moving to fill their mug. I'm not sure what that says about my character. That you're either incredibly resilient or you've lost all sense of taste, I suggest. Then immediately worry I've crossed some invisible professional line.
That's great.
But Alex actually chuckles a real sound, not the polite laugh people use in meetings. Both probably. They take a sip and grimace slightly. You know, there's a coffee shop 2 blocks from here that actually serves something that resembles coffee, but somehow I keep coming back to this. Habit's a powerful thing, I say, studying their face. There are faint lines around their eyes, not from age, but from the kind of sustained focus that comes with carrying responsibility, plus the convenience factor. Though I have to ask, do you actually taste it anymore? Or is it just fuel at this point? Alex pauses, mug halfway to their lips, and looks at me with something that might be surprise. You know what? Honestly, can't remember the last time I thought about how it tastes. That's ... kind of sad, actually, is it? They lean against the counter, and for the first time since I started working here, Alex seems less like a senior manager and more like a person. I suppose it is. I used to be particular about coffee. Had this whole setup at home, different. Beans the works. What happened to it? Life, I guess. Efficiency won out over enjoyment. They take another sip and shake their head. You have a way of noticing things others don't. There's something in the way they say it, not dismissive or patronizing, but genuinely curious. Like they're trying to figure out how I see things they've stopped seeing. Maybe I just haven't been here long enough to stop noticing, I say. Alex studies me for a moment, and I feel like they're seeing something they hadn't expected to find. Maybe that's it. They push off from the counter, coffee in hand and head, toward the door. But they pause at the threshold and look back. For what it's worth, they say, the coffee shop on 5th Street. If you ever want something that doesn't taste like regret, and then they're gone, leaving me standing there with the distinct feeling that something just shifted. Though I couldn't say exactly what. Oh my God, you're going to die. Morgan appears at my desk like they've been shot out of a cannon, practically vibrating with excitement. Good morning to you too, I say, looking up from my computer where I've been pretending to understand a spreadsheet that might as well be written in ancient Sanskrit. And why am I dying exactly? Because Morgan plops down in the chair next to my desk and leans in conspiratorially. You just got assigned to the Hartwell Industries campaign. I blink. Is that supposed to mean something to me, Jamie? Morgan grabs my shoulders. The Hartwell Industries campaign is Alex's baby, their biggest client, the quarterly campaign that basically funds half this department, and they never end. I mean, never bring in junior staff for support. My stomach does something complicated. They requested me specifically. According to the email that just went out, yes. You're now officially supporting the Hartwell quarterly campaign under Alex's direct supervision? Morgan grins like they've just told me I won the lottery. I don't know what you did, but you definitely made an impression. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting in conference room Everest, trying to look competent while Alex spreads charts and campaign materials across the table with the precision of someone conducting surgery. They've changed since our coffee conversation back to the polished professional I first saw through the glass, though something about their demeanor feels less rigid than before. The Hartwell campaign launches in 6 weeks, Alex explains. Not looking up from the documents? They're a mid-sized manufacturing company trying to rebrand themselves as environmentally conscious. The challenge is making that message authentic without sounding like we're just slapping a green label on business as usual. I nod, taking notes and trying to ignore how my pulse quickens when Alex's hand brushes mine while passing me a folder. I've been working with them for 3 years, and this campaign could either solidify our relationship for the long term, or, they pause, finally looking up. Well, let's focus on the first option. What made you think of me for this? I ask, then immediately regret the question. It sounds needy, fishing for compliments, but Alex doesn't seem bothered. They lean back in their chair, studying me with that same curious expression from the coffee machine. You've been here 3 weeks, and people already talk to you differently than they talk to everyone else? Linda in accounting actually smiled last Tuesday, and I mean really smiled, not the corporate approximation. The security guard asks about your weekend like he actually wants to know. Even the coffee machine seems less hostile when you're around. Feel heat creep up my neck. I just try to be friendly. It's not just friendliness, Alex says, and there's something in their voice I can't quite identify. You make this office feel different. The words hang in the air between us, heavier than they should be. I can feel something shifting again, like the ground under my feet is becoming less solid. And maybe that's what you've needed, I hear myself say, and immediately wonder where that came from. Alex goes very still. They're looking at me like they're trying to solve a puzzle, and I'm suddenly aware of how quiet the conference room is. How the sounds of the office seem very far away. The moment stretches until it feels like something's going to snap. Then Alex clears their throat and shuffles the papers. Right? Well, let's go over the timeline. But the professional tone doesn't quite stick. And for the rest of the meeting, I catch Alex glancing at me when they think I'm not looking. It's like they're trying to figure out exactly what just happened. I'm wondering the same thing. It's nearly 7 when I finally admit that. I'm not going to understand the Hartwell Industries brand guidelines just by staring at them harder. The office is emptied out gradually over the past hour, leaving behind the particular quiet that comes with spaces designed for noise. My desk lamp creates a small circle of warm light in the growing darkness, and I'm starting to think I should probably call it a day. But this is my first major project. My chance to prove I'm more than just the friendly new person who makes small talk by the coffee machine. So I stay, spreading documents across my desk like maybe the right arrangement will make everything click into place. I'm so absorbed in trying to decode what authentic environmental messaging with broad market appeal actually means that I don't notice the footsteps in the hallway until they pause right outside the cluster of cubicles where I sit. Burning the midnight oil? I look up to find Alex standing at the edge of my workspace, looking less polished than usual. Their blazer is draped over one arm, sleeves rolled up, and there's something about the way they're standing less formal. It's more human that reminds me of our conversation by the coffee machine. Trying to, I say, gesturing helplessly at the papers scattered across my desk. Though I think the oil might be burning me instead, Alex moves closer, and I catch a hint of their scent, something clean and understated that somehow suits them. Perfectly. Mind if I take a look? They lean over my shoulder to examine the documents close enough that I can feel the warmth radiating from their body. I try to focus on their analysis of the brand positioning, but I'm distracted by the way. Their voice sounds different when it's not projecting across a conference room. Softer, more intimate. You're overthinking it, Alex says, pointing to a section of text I've highlighted in 3 different colors. Hartwell wants to seem environmentally conscious, but they don't want to alienate customers who might see that as political. It's about finding language that feels responsible without feeling preachy. Responsible but not preachy, I repeat. Right, that's actually really helpful. Alex straightens up but doesn't step away. You don't have to solve it all tonight, It's kind of work it. Benefits from some mental distance. Sometimes the best insights come when you're not trying so hard. Spoken like someone who's been doing this for a while. 8 years, Alex confirms, and something passes across their face. Not quite regret, but a kind of weariness. Long enough to know that staying late doesn't always mean working smart. I look around the empty office, the rows of darkened cubicles, and conference rooms. But you're still here. Fair point. Alex's mouth quirks upward. I suppose we're both gluttons for punishment. Or we both care too much about doing good work. That's a more generous interpretation. We stand there for a moment in comfortable silence. 2 people surrounded by the detritus of a day's worth of corporate productivity. There's something about the quiet, the after-hours feeling, that makes the space feel less like an office and more like a place where real conversations might happen. I should let you get back to it, Alex says, but they don't move to leave. Actually, I say, then pause, not sure what I was going to say next. Thank you for the perspective, for thinking of me for this project. You don't need to thank me for that. Alex's voice is quiet, almost serious. You're going to do good work on this campaign, I can tell. There's something in the way they say it, not just professional confidence, but something more personal. Like they see something in me that I'm not sure I see in myself. How can you tell? Alex considers this, and I watch their face in the soft light from my desk lamp. You pay attention to things other people miss. You ask the right questions, and they pause, seeming to choose their words carefully. You bring something to interactions that most people don't. Something genuine. I feel that warmth creeping up my neck again, but this time it's accompanied by something else. A flutter of awareness that makes me suddenly conscious of how close we're standing. How the empty office feels intimate rather than lonely. I should go, Alex says abruptly, as if they've just remembered something important. They step back, and the moment breaks like a soap bubble. Right, of course. Long day. Yeah. Alex moves toward the elevator, then pauses and looks back. Jamie? Yeah? Don't. Stay too much longer, okay? The work will still be here tomorrow. As the elevator doors close behind them, I sink back into my chair and stare at the documents spread across my desk. But I'm not really seeing the brand guidelines anymore. I'm thinking about the way Alex's voice sounded when they said my name. And the fact that for just a moment, standing there in the quiet office, it felt like we were the only two people in the world, and I'm thinking about the wedding ring I noticed on their left hand as they gathered their things to leave. A simple band that catches the light and reminds me that some connections, no matter how genuine they feel, come with complications I'm only just beginning to understand. Our first official project. Meeting happens in Alex's office's space that somehow manages to feel both professional and personal. There are the expected elements. Awards on the wall. A bookshelf full of marketing texts and industry reports. A desk organized with military precision. But there are also small touches that feel distinctly human. A coffee mug with a chip in the handle. A small succulent that's clearly been carefully tended. And a framed photo turned at an angle I can't quite see. I've been thinking about what? You said, Alex begins, pulling out a chair for me at the small conference table by the window. About the Hartwell messaging, what I said. I settle into the chair, trying to ignore how the simple gesture of Alex holding it for me makes my pulse quicken slightly that maybe we're overthinking it. That sometimes the best approach is the most honest one. Alex sits across from me, spreading out materials with that same careful precision I've come to associate with them. So I want to start there. What's your honest impression of Hartwell Industries? I study the company profile in front of me, photos of manufacturing facilities, statements about environmental responsibility, charts showing their carbon footprint reduction over the past 5 years. Honestly, they seem like a company that's genuinely trying to do better, but they're afraid no one will believe them. Alex leans back in their chair, something shifting in their expression. That's exactly what I've been struggling to articulate. For months, really, been approaching this like it's about convincing people of something. But you're right, it's about addressing their own doubt first. Alex pulls out a legal pad and starts writing. If they don't believe their own story, how can they expect anyone else to? For the next hour, we work through campaign concepts with an energy I haven't felt since college group projects, where everyone actually cared about the outcome. Alex's methodical approach provides structure, but they keep asking for my perspective, in ways that make me feel like a collaborator rather than an assistant. When I suggest focusing on the company's journey rather than their destination, Alex stops writing and looks at me with something like surprise. That's brilliant, they say. Instead of claiming they're already perfect, we show them as a company that's committed to getting better. It's more honest, I say, and honestly more interesting. Perfect is boring. Growth is compelling. Growth is compelling, Alex repeats, writing it down. I'm stealing that. Consider it a gift. When we break for lunch, Alex suggests the sandwich place downstairs. But somehow we end up walking 6 blocks to a small cafe I've never noticed before. The conversation flows from campaign strategies to broader questions about effective communication. And I find myself sharing ideas I've never articulated before. Thoughts about authenticity and messaging, about the difference between selling and connecting. You know what's funny? Alex says, pausing with their sandwich halfway to their mouth. I used to think like this. When I first started here, I was full of ideas about changing how we approach clients, about making the work more meaningful. What happened? Alex is quiet. For a moment, looking out the cafe window at the stream of people walking by. The usual, I suppose. Deadlines, budgets, the pressure to produce results that look like everyone else's results. After a while, it's easier to follow the formulas than to question them. But you're questioning them now? I'm questioning them now, Alex agrees, looking back at me with an expression I can't quite read. I haven't felt this engaged with work. In years, it's like remembering why I got into marketing in the first place. There's something in the way they say it that makes me think we're not just talking about work anymore. But before I can figure out how to respond, Alex is checking their phone and mentioning that we should head back as we walk back to the office. I catch myself stealing glances at their profile. wondering what other parts of themselves Alex has forgotten over the years, and what it might mean that our collaboration seems to be helping them remember. It's past 8 on a Thursday evening, and Alex's office has taken on a different quality in the lamplight. The fluorescent overhead lights are off, replaced by the warm glow from the desk lamp and the city lights filtering through the window. We've been working on campaign copy for the past 3 hours, and somewhere along the way, the professional distance that usually exists between us has quietly dissolved. Read that tagline again, Alex says, leaning back in their chair and running a hand through their hara. Gesture that I've noticed tends to appear when they're tired or thinking hard. Growing towards something better, one decision at a time. I read from my notebook. It's good. It's really good. Alex turns to face me more directly. But I keep thinking there's something missing. Something about the why. Not just the what. I set down my pen and study Alex's face in the soft light. There are those faint lines around their eyes again, more visible now in the lamp's glow, and something about the way they're sitting less rigid, more relaxed makes them seem more approachable than usual. What if it's not missing something, I suggest? What if the why is implied? Like, the assumption is that people understand why growing towards something better matters, but do they? Alex shifts in their chair to face me fully. I mean, in my experience, a lot of people get comfortable with good enough. They don't see the point in the effort required for something better. There's something in the way they say it that makes me think we've moved beyond talking about the campaign. That sounds like personal experience talking. Alex pauses, seeming to realize the same thing. Maybe it is. I've been thinking lately about how easy it is to get stuck in patterns. To wake up one day and realize you've been going through the motions for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to actually choose your actions. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also safe, you know? Patterns don't require decisions. They don't require risk. Alex stands and walks to the window, looking out at the city lights. Sometimes I wonder who I am outside these walls, outside the routines I've built. I join them at the window, close enough to see their reflection in the glass. What would you want to be, if you could choose? Alex is quiet for a long moment. I used to want to travel, not for work, not with itineraries and productivity goals, but just ... to see things. To have conversations with strangers in coffee shops and places I'd never been. To make decisions based on curiosity instead of efficiency. What's stopping you? Responsibility. Mortgages. The fear that if I step off the path I'm on, I won't be able to find my way back. Alex glances at me, and in the window's reflection, I can see them studying my face. What about you? What made you take the risk of a new job, new city? I think about how to answer honestly. I was working at a marketing firm in Portland, and I was good at it, really good. But I woke up one morning and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something because I wanted to, not because it made sense. So I applied for jobs in cities I'd never lived in, and when this offer came through, I took it without visiting first, without knowing anyone here. That's terrifying. But it was also the first time in years that I felt like myself again. I turned from the window to look at Alex directly, instead of their reflection. Sometimes following your instincts feels like jumping off a cliff, but sometimes the cliff you're standing on isn't as solid as you thought. Alex meets my gaze, and for a moment, the space between us feels charged with something I can't quite name. We're standing closer than we usually do, close enough that I can see the flecks of gold in their eyes. It's close enough to notice the way they're breathing slightly faster than normal. I should probably ... Alex starts to say, then trails off. Probably. What? Probably stop telling you things I don't usually tell people. But they don't step away, and neither do I instead. We stand there in the warm light. Two people who've somehow managed to find each other in the middle of a corporate office building. And I can't shake the feeling that something important is happening, even if I don't fully understand what it is yet. The Hartwell campaign deadline is 2 weeks away, which means Alex and I have been spending more time together than apart. We've fallen into a rhythm morning coffee discussions, afternoon strategy sessions, and these extended evening work periods that have started to feel less like work and more like the most interesting part of my day. It's Friday afternoon when Morgan appears at my desk with the kind of grin that usually means trouble. "Okay, work robots. Time to remember you're human beings," they announce. "Team happy hour, starting in 30 minutes. And before you even think about making excuses, Alex already said they'd try to make it. I glance toward Alex's office, where I can see them on a phone call. Gesturing emphatically at something on their computer screen, they said that. Well, they said they'd see how the afternoon goes, which in Alex speak translates to "I'll show up for exactly one drink and leave after 45 minutes. Morgan perches on the edge of my desk. But the point is, they're making an effort. And you should too. The thing is, I want to go. I like these people, and I haven't done nearly enough socializing since moving here. But I also know that Alex and I had planned to work on the final campaign presentation tonight, and the thought of cutting that short feels strangely disappointing. I'll be there, I tell Morgan, even as part of me is already strategizing how to make it a quick appearance. An hour later, I'm squeezed into a booth at Murphy's bar with 6 of my coworkers, nursing a beer and trying to focus on Morgan's story about their disastrous date last weekend. But my attention keeps drifting to Alex, who's sitting across from me, looking slightly out of place, but making genuine efforts to engage with the conversation. So then he tells me he's really into cryptocurrency, Morgan continues, making air quotes. And I'm thinking, okay, that's not necessarily a deal breaker. But then he starts explaining his theory about how Bitcoin is going to replace human emotion as a form of currency. I'm like, check, please. Everyone laughs, including Alex, and I find myself studying the way their face changes when they smile, softer, more open, like a different person entirely. What about you, Alex? Asks David from accounting. Any dating horror stories to share? Alex's smile falters slightly, and they take a sip of their drink. I've been married for 6 years. Not much dating happening on my end. 6 years, Morgan exclaims. That's like ancient and modern relationship terms. What's your secret? I watch Alex's face carefully and notice the moment of hesitation before they answer. Consistency, I suppose. Finding someone whose life fits well with yours. It's a diplomatic answer. But something about the way they say it maybe the way they don't quite meet anyone's eyes, makes me wonder if there's more to the story. The conversation moves on to other topics, but I find myself stealing glances at Alex, trying to read the expression on their face. When they catch me looking the third time, they raise an eyebrow in a silent question, and I feel heat creep up my neck. 20 minutes later, Alex stands to leave. Early day tomorrow, they explain, though it's Friday night. Jamie, don't stay too late. We can pick up where we left off on Monday. But there's something in their tone that makes me think they're hoping I'll disagree, that I'll suggest we continue working tonight as planned. And despite the fun I'm having with the group, I find myself standing too. Actually, I should probably head out as well. Still getting used to the city nightlife pace. Morgan protests, but not too strenuously. And 5 minutes later, Alex and I are standing on the sidewalk outside Murphy's, the sounds of Friday night revelry echoing around us. You didn't have to leave, Alex says, but they don't sound disappointed. I know, but we had plans. We had work plans. Right, work plans. I pause, trying to understand why that distinction feels important. Should we? Do you want to grab coffee? Instead, somewhere quieter where we can actually think. Alex looks at me for a long moment. I get the sense they're weighing something more complicated than just whether to extend our work session. Yeah, they say finally. I'd like that. Later that night, I'm at home reviewing my notes when my phone buzzes with a text from Alex. Thank you for tonight. The campaign presentation looks solid, but more than that, I look forward to our work sessions more than I should. I stare at the message for a long time, reading it over and over, trying to parse the meaning behind more than I should. It's a professional text on the surface, but something about the phrasing feels personal, intimate even. I start typing a response several times, deleting each attempt. Finally, I settle on, I look forward to them too, more than I expected when I took this job. Alex's response comes quickly. Same here and then.
I'll read that later.
Stare you Monday, Jamie. For the first time since I started this job, I'm forced to acknowledge what's been building between Alex and me over these past weeks. More than professional collaboration, more than friendly collegiality. It's something I don't have a name for yet, but something that makes my pulse quicken when I see their name on my phone screen. Something that might be dangerous. Given the wedding ring, I've noticed them fidgeting with more and more frequently during our conversations. Something that feels too important to ignore, even if I'm not sure what to do with it yet. Saturday afternoon. In the office feels like inhabiting a parallel universe. The elevators run quietly, the phones don't ring, and our footsteps echo differently in the empty hallways. Alex suggested we come in to finalize the Hartwell presentation without the usual weekday distractions. And I agreed, maybe a little too quickly. We've been working for 3 hours when Alex pushes back from their desk and stretches, looking around the empty office as if seeing it for the first time. It's strange, isn't it? They say how different this place feels when there's no one else here. I follow their gaze around the office, the same cubicles and conference rooms, but somehow transformed by the quiet. More honest, maybe? Like it's not trying to be anything other than what it is. It's more honest. Alex repeats thoughtfully. I like that. We're sitting in Alex's office. Campaign materials spread across every available surface. The presentation is nearly finished. We've crafted something I'm genuinely proud of. Campaign that feels authentic and compelling. But there's an energy between us today that has little to do with work. It's an intimacy that comes with being the only 2 people in a space designed for hundreds. Can I ask you something? I say, setting down the document I've been pretending to review. Of course. That night at Murphy's, when David asked about your marriage, I pause, not sure how to finish the question diplomatically. Alex is quiet for a long moment, fingers drumming against their desk. What about it? You just seemed, I don't know, like you were giving the answer you thought you were supposed to give. Another long pause. Alex stands and walks to the window, looking out at the city on a Saturday afternoon. Fewer people, less urgency, a softer quality to everything. 6 years, they say finally. 6 years of shared calendars and mortgage payments, and conversations about whose turn it is to call the repair service. 6 years of being good roommates who happen to share a last name. The honesty in their voice catches me off guard. That sounds lonely. It is. But it's also what I thought I wanted: stability, partnership. Someone who understood my schedule and didn't ask for more than I felt capable of giving. Alex turns back to face me. The problem is, I've started to wonder if maybe I'm capable of giving more than I thought, or if maybe I want more than I've been asking for. I stand too, moving closer to where they're standing by the window. What kind of more? Conversations that matter. Work that feels like it means something. The possibility of being seen by someone who isn't trying to see what they expect to see. Alex looks at me directly, and there's something vulnerable in their expression that makes my breath catch. These past weeks, working with UI, remember what it feels like to be excited about something again. To look forward to Monday morning instead of just enduring it. Alex ... I start, but they continue. I go home to someone who knows exactly what time I'll be there, what I'll want for dinner, what show we'll watch before bed. It's comfortable, but it's also like living the same day over and over. They run a hand through their hair. Sometimes I wonder who I am outside these walls. But lately I've been wondering if I even exist outside these patterns I've built. Without thinking, I step closer. You exist. You're existing right now, in this conversation, in the work we've been doing together. The person I've gotten to know these past weeks, that's real. Alex looks at me with something that might be gratitude, or relief, or something more complicated. You see me differently than other people do, maybe because I'm not trying to see what I'm supposed to see. The words hang between us, and suddenly we're standing closer than we were before. Close enough that I can see Alex's chest rising and falling slightly faster than normal. The office feels very quiet, very private, like we're the only 2 people in the world. Jamie, Alex says softly, and there's something in the way they say my name that makes everything else fade away. We reach for the same document on the desk at the same moment, and our hands brush a contact so brief it shouldn't mean anything. But the electricity of it makes us both freeze. For a heartbeat, we're just standing there, hands almost touching. looking at each other with an awareness that makes the air feel thick and charged. We should. Alex starts, but doesn't finish. The sentence, should what? Should probably get back to work. But neither of us moves. Instead, we stay frozen in that moment, the space between us humming with possibility and tension and the weight of all the things we haven't said yet. Finally, Alex steps back, breaking the spell. They clear their throat and shuffle through the papers on the desk, but I can see their hands shaking slightly. The presentation looks good, they say, voice carefully neutral. I think we're ready for Monday. Yeah, I manage. Ready for Monday. But as I gather my things to leave, I catch Alex watching me with an expression that suggests Monday feels very far away. And that maybe, like me, they're not entirely sure what's going to happen when we find ourselves alone in a room together. Again, as I wait for the elevator, I can't shake the feeling that something irreversible just happened, even though on the surface, nothing happened at all. But sometimes the most important moments are the ones where you don't cross a line, where you acknowledge that the line exists, that you both want to cross it, that the wanting itself changes everything. The Hartwell presentation went better than either of us dared to hope. The client loved the authenticity of the messaging, the journey-focused approach, even the tagline we'd wrestled with for hours. Alex handled the presentation with their usual professional grace. But I caught them glancing at me during the client's enthusiastic feedback, sharing a moment of quiet triumph that felt distinctly ours. Now we're back in Alex's office. Door closed, the rest of the team having filtered out to celebrate at the bar across the street. Alex pulls a small bottle of champagne from their desk. Draw the kind of thing they probably keep for exactly these occasions. I can't believe you had that just sitting there, I say, watching them work the cork free with practiced ease. 8 years in this business teaches you to be prepared for both celebration and commiseration. The cork pops with a satisfying sound, and Alex pours the champagne into 2 coffee mugs, the only vessels available in their office. Though I have to admit, this feels more like celebration than I've experienced in a while. We toast with our improvised champagne flutes, the moment feeling both professional and intimate. The campaign's success gives us legitimate reason to celebrate, but there's an undercurrent to this moment that has nothing to do with client satisfaction. So what happens now? I ask, settling into the chair across from Alex's desk. Professionally. I mean, do I go back to regular assignments or ... That depends. Alex leans back in their chair, studying me over their mug.
Oh?
How did you feel about this project? Working on something bigger, more complex? Honestly.
Yeah.
It was the most engaged I've felt with work since ... maybe ever. The strategy, the creative, problem solving, having input that actually matters, I loved all of it. Good, because I've been thinking. Alex sets down their mug and looks at me directly. I want to recommend you for a promotion. Senior associate level, which would mean working on campaigns like this regularly, with me specifically. My heart does something complicated, excitement and nervousness and something warmer. You'd want to keep working together? I'd want to keep working together, Alex confirms. And there's something in their tone that suggests they're talking about more than just professional collaboration. The champagne is making me brave. Or maybe it's just the success of the day, or the way Alex is looking at me like they see something worth investing in, personally. I hear myself ask, what happens personally? The question hangs in the air between us. I watch Alex's expression shift from professional confidence to something more uncertain, more vulnerable. Personally, Alex says slowly, I think we both know something's been happening between us. Yeah, we have. Alex stands and moves to the window, looking out at the city lights that have started to twinkle in the gathering dusk. I need to be honest with you about something, about my situation. Your marriage? My marriage? Alex turns back to face me. It's not. It hasn't been what either of us hoped it would be for a long time. We're good partners on paper, we share responsibilities. We don't fight. We function well as a unit, but we don't connect. Haven't really connected in years. I stand too, moving closer. That sounds hard. It is. But it's also complicated. There's a house, shared finances, the expectations of family and friends. It's not as simple as just walking away from a life you've built, even if that life doesn't fit anymore. We're standing close now, close enough that I can see the conflict playing across Alex's face. Want and doubt, and something that might be fear. What are you saying? I asked softly. I'm saying that what I feel with you, this connection, this attraction, it's not something I was looking for. It's not something I planned. But it's also not something I can ignore anymore. The space between us feels electric, charged with months of growing tension and unspoken feelings. Alex reaches up as if to touch my face, and I lean into the gesture, both of us moving closer, until there's barely any distance left between us. "Jamie," Alex whispers, and their voice is rough with something that makes my pulse race. We're so close I can feel their breath, can see the flecks of gold in their eyes. For a moment it feels inevitable, like we're going to close this distance and finally acknowledge, physically, what's been building between us for weeks. But then Alex pulls back, stepping away with visible effort. "We shouldn't," they say, but their voice lacks conviction. But we want to. Alex agrees, and the admission hangs between us like a confession. We stand there in the lamplight, both breathing harder than normal, both acutely aware of the line we almost crossed, and the fact that pulling back required more strength than either of us wanted to admit we had. "This is complicated," Alex says finally. "Yeah, it is. But neither of us says it's wrong, and somehow that feels like the most honest thing either of us could say." The next day is a masterclass in professional awkwardness. Alex and I manage to avoid being alone together for most of the morning there in meetings. I'm catching up on emails, and when we do cross paths in the hallway, our interactions are politely neutral in a way that feels forced. By lunch, I can't stand it anymore. I find Alex in their office, staring at their computer screen with the kind of intense focus that suggests they're not actually reading whatever's on it. "Can we talk?" I ask from the doorway. Alex looks up, and I can see the moment of internal debate before they nod and gesture me in. I close the door behind me, something that used to feel natural, but now feels loaded with significance. "About last night," I start, but Alex interrupts. "I think we should probably pretend last night didn't happen," they say, but they won't meet my eyes. "For both our sakes. Do you really think that's possible?" Alex is quiet for a long moment, finally, looking up at me. "No, I don't." I move to the chair across from their desk, the same one where we've had dozens of conversations about campaigns and strategies and deadlines. But this conversation feels different, more fragile, more important. "Alex, what's happening between us is a mistake," Alex says quickly. "Has to be a mistake." "Why?" "Because I'm married. Because you work for me. Because this isn't who I thought I was." Alex's voice is strained, like they're trying to convince themselves as much as me. "I don't do this. I don't have feelings for people I work with. I don't question my marriage. I don't almost kiss someone in my office after hours. But you did. We did. Yeah, we did." Alex runs both hands through their hair, a gesture I've learned means they're struggling with something. And I can't stop thinking about it, about you, about how different everything feels when we're together. The honesty in their voice breaks something open in my chest.
No.
This isn't who I thought I was either. Never had feelings for someone who was unavailable. I've never been the other person in any situation, but what I feel for you. I pause, trying to find the right words. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like the most honest thing that's happened to me since I moved. Here. Alex meets my eyes, and I can see the conflict, their want, battling with obligation, desire, fighting with guilt. "Sometimes who we are isn't who we plan to be," I say softly. "That's what scares me." Alex's voice is barely above a whisper. "Because the person I am with you, the person who looks forward to Monday mornings and stays late just to keep talking, that person feels more like me than I've felt in years." We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of the admission settling between us. "So what do we do?" I ask. Alex is quiet for so long, I start to think they're not going to answer. Finally, they look at me directly. "I don't know. I know I can't pretend this isn't happening. I know I don't want to stop working with you, stop talking to you. Stop. Whatever this is we've been doing, even though it's complicated. Especially because it's complicated. Because something this real doesn't come along very often. And maybe we owe it to ourselves to see what it is. I feel something like relief flood through me. So we explore it carefully. Very carefully. Alex's voice is steady now, like they've made a decision. We're honest about what this is and what it might become. We don't make promises we can't keep, and we figure it out as we go. It's not a declaration of love or a plan for the future. It's not a solution to the complications of Alex's marriage or our professional relationship. But it's an acknowledgement of what's real between us, and a commitment to not walk away from it just because it's inconvenient. Okay, I say okay. And somehow that simple agreement feels like the most important conversation I've ever had. 3 days later, Alex suggests coffee after work. Not the office coffee that tastes like regret, and not the sandwich place downstairs where we might run into colleagues. Instead, they text me an address for a small cafe 6 blocks away, the kind of place that exists in the space between neighborhood hangout and first date destination. I find Alex already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 mugs and an expression that suggests they've been thinking about this moment as much as I have. They've changed out of their work clothes into jeans and a soft sweater that makes them look younger, less formal, more like the person I've glimpsed during our late-night office conversations. I ordered for you, Alex says as I sit down. Coffee. With too much sugar and a healthy disrespect for anything that remotely resembles office coffee, you know me well. I'm starting to. We talk about work for exactly 5 minutes before the conversation drifts to other things, books we've read, places we've traveled. It's a kind of easy sharing that feels natural when you're not trying to impress someone but genuinely want to know them. Can I ask you something? Alex says, wrapping their hands around their mug. What made you leave Portland, really? I consider how honest to be, then decide that honesty is what got us here in the first place. I was in a relationship. 3 years, lived together, talked about marriage. On paper, it was everything I thought I wanted. But I woke up one morning and realized I was performing the role of someone in love rather than actually feeling it. We had routines and shared Netflix passwords and plans for the future, but when I tried to imagine being happy in that life for the next 30 years, I shake my head. I couldn't do it. Alex nods slowly. That sounds familiar? Is that what? Your marriage feels like performance. Alex is quiet for a moment, staring into their coffee. It feels like we're both very good at being the people we think we're supposed to be. Responsible, stable, predictable. I can't remember the last time either of us did something because we wanted to, not because it made sense. We finish our coffee, and without discussing it, start walking. The downtown streets are quieter in the evening, less urgent than during business hours. We walk slowly, our conversation meandering like our path through the city. I used to want to write, Alex says suddenly. Before marketing, before the corporate job, I thought I might try freelance writing. Travel pieces, maybe, or essays about, I don't know, whatever seemed worth writing about. What happened to that dream? Student loans, the promise of steady income. It's a very reasonable argument that writing doesn't pay the bills. Alex glances at me. But lately I've been thinking about it again, about what it would feel like to create something purely because I wanted it to exist. It's not too late, you know? People change careers all the time. At 34, with a mortgage and a spouse who's built their life around the assumption of my steady paycheck, especially at 34, when you're old enough to know what you actually want, but young enough to still go after it, we've stopped walking. Standing under a streetlight that casts everything in warm golden tones. Alex is looking at me like I've said something revolutionary instead of just common sense. How do you do that? They ask. Do what? Make everything seem possible. Before I can answer, Alex steps closer, close enough that I can see the uncertainty and want in their expression. This time, when they reach up to touch my face, neither of us pulls away. The kiss is tentative at first, a question more than a statement. But when I lean into it, when I let my hands find their way to Alex's waist, it deepens into something that feels like an answer to all the conversations we've been having around the edges of what we really mean to each other. When we finally break apart, we're both breathing hard, foreheads touching, still standing close enough to share the same air. What are we doing? Alex whispers. Something that feels right, even if it's complicated. Alex nods against my forehead. Yeah, it does feel right. Walk back to our cars slowly, hands brushing, but not quite holding. Both of us aware that something has fundamentally shifted. This isn't just attraction anymore, or workplace chemistry, or the thrill of emotional connection. This is something deeper, more real, and infinitely more complicated than either of us signed up for. Monday morning feels like stepping into a parallel universe where Alex and I have to pretend that Friday night didn't happen, that we didn't. Spend 2 hours walking through downtown streets, sharing dreams, and ending with a kiss that changed everything. We're professionals. We're good at professional facades. But maintaining them now requires a level of performance that's almost exhausting. Good morning, Alex says when I pass their office, voice carefully neutral. Morning, I reply, equally careful. But when our eyes meet for just a moment, there's a flicker of something memory, awareness, the shared knowledge of what it felt. Like to kiss each other under a streetlight, that makes my pulse quicken. The morning meeting about the Henderson Industries account is a masterclass in subtext. Alex presents the strategy with their usual competence. I take notes and offer suggestions. And to anyone watching, we're the picture of professional collaboration. But when Alex's hand brushes mine while passing me a document, the contact sends electricity up my arm. When they lean over my shoulder to point out something on my laptop screen, I can smell their perfume and remember exactly how it felt to be close enough to kiss them. You two have really found your rhythm, Morgan comments after the meeting, and I nearly choke on my coffee. The Hartwell campaign was brilliant, and this Henderson strategy looks just as solid. Great team chemistry. Thanks. Alex says smoothly, but I catch the way their jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Jamie brings a valuable perspective to the campaigns. Valuable perspective, Morgan repeats with a grin. Is that what we're calling it now? It's an innocent comment. Morgan has no idea there's anything beyond professional collaboration between Alex and me. But the words hang in the air. I feel heat creep up my neck. The rest of the day passes in a series of stolen glances and careful distances. Alex and I manage to avoid being alone together until nearly 6, when most of the office has emptied out and I find myself lingering at my desk, ostensibly working but really just hoping for a reason to see them again. Jamie. Alex appears at my cubicle, looking around to make sure we're relatively alone. Do you have a minute? We walk to their office, and Alex closes the door, a gesture that used to feel natural, but now feels loaded with significance. How are you handling this? Alex asks without preamble. The maintaining appearances part. It's harder than I expected, I admit. Pretending that nothing's changed when everything feels different. Alex nods, moving to the window. I keep catching myself looking at you differently. During meetings, when you're talking, I have to remind myself that everyone else sees us as colleagues, and we are colleagues. We are, but we're also. Alex trails off, seeming to search for the right words. We're also whatever we are outside of work hours. Whatever we are, Alex repeats. Which is what exactly? I know what it feels like, but I don't know what to call it. It's a fair question, and one I've been avoiding thinking about too directly. Does it need a label right now? Maybe not. But it needs boundaries, guidelines, because I've never done anything like this before, and I don't want to mess it up. We establish quietly and carefully the parameters of whatever this is. No contact during office hours, unless it's genuinely work-related. No lingering in each other's offices without legitimate business reasons. After-work meetings, coffee, dinner, walks through the city are allowed. Encouraged even, but they stay separate from our professional lives. I've never kept something this important secret before, I admit, as we're preparing to leave separately. 10 minutes apart, like conspirators. Alex pauses at their desk, car keys in hand. Is that what this is? Important? The question catches me off guard with its directness. But looking at Alex in the soft light of their office lamp, remembering the way they smiled during our walk on Friday night, thinking about how different work feels when I know I'll see them, I realize there's only one honest answer. Yeah, it's important. Alex nods slowly. For me too. And as I watch them gather their things, I understand that we've crossed another line, not just from colleagues to something more, but from something casual to something that matters enough to protect. Something worth the complexity of secrecy. Worth the careful navigation of professional boundaries. Worth the risk of complications neither of us fully understands yet. Something important enough to be worth the secret. For months in, Alex and I have mastered the art of stolen moments. Conference room Denali after lunch, text conversations that drift from work to personal, fingers brushing during document exchanges. You've changed how I see everything, Alex says during one of our brief meetings. Work relationships, what I want for my days. The gratitude in their voice carries weight appreciation. It's mixed with guilt about finding happiness in complicated circumstances. But we've learned to channel our connection into professional excellence, supporting each other's growth while maintaining careful boundaries. The office holiday party forces me to watch Alex with their spouse. Coordinated. Performing marital happiness for colleagues who see compatibility where I see distance. Later, alone at the bar, Alex approaches. This isn't easy for me either, they say quietly, when I mention how difficult it is to see them married. That night, texting, I love you, I write our first use of the word, I love you too. But I don't know what that means for us. The impossible complexity laid bare. 2 weeks later, clarity arrives like morning light. I stop wishing our situation was different and start appreciating what is. I've been trying to fit us into categories. That don't apply, I tell Alex over coffee. This isn't the love story I imagined, but it's the one I needed. Alex's relief is visible. You're talking about accepting the relationship. Exactly, love that exists in complicated spaces but provides real meaning. We choose gratitude over guilt, celebration over apology. 6 months later, Morgan notices our dream team dynamic. Our elevated campaign success, how we both seem genuinely happier. You make me remember why I wanted this job, Alex says during a private moment in Denali. Our relationship exists in margins coffee meetings, stolen glances, text conversations that sustain us. It's not traditional, but it's ours. In the spaces, between conventional categories, we've found connection that changes everything while fitting nowhere. You made me feel different, Alex says, in the best possible way.